The land looked dead from a distance, a stretch of cracked earth and sun-bleached. Grass lay under a sky so wide it felt like it might swallow a man whole. Wind dragged dust across the plains in long, whispering trails, like the ghosts of cattle drives that had failed long ago. This was the ranch no one wanted, the one men laughed about in saloons, the one banks wouldn't touch, the one auctioneers rushed through like it embarrassed them. And yet, this was the land he paid $75 for. No one bothered to ask his name at the county office. The clerk slid the papers across the desk with a smirk, as if watching a slow-motion disaster unfold. $75 for a ranch that had chewed up better men and spit them back into the dirt. $75 for broken fences, a collapsing barn, and a well that coughed more dust than water. He signed anyway. Outside, the wind tugged at his coat as he folded the deed and slipped it into his pocket. He stood there for a moment, boots planted in the dirt, eyes scanning the horizon. Most men would have felt regret. Some would have felt fear. What he felt was something else, a quiet defiance. He rode out to the ranch alone, the rhythmic clop of his horse's hooves echoing through the emptiness. The sun sank low, staining the sky with blood-orange light. By the time the ranch house came into view, shadows stretched long and thin, like fingers reaching for him. The house sagged under its own weight, wood warped and grey. The barn leaned like an old drunk. Fence posts lay scattered, chewed by time and neglect. It wasn't just worthless, it was forgotten. He dismounted slowly, listening. That's when he heard it. A sound so faint it almost disappeared into the wind. A breath, not human. He followed the sound past the barn, boots crunching on dry earth, heart ticking louder with each step. Behind a collapsed section of fencing he found her. A horse, or what was left of one. Her ribs pressed against her skin like a cage. Her coat was dull, patchy, eaten by sun and hunger. One eye was swollen shut, the other fixed on him. Not with fear, but with something deeper, something measured. She didn't run. She didn't rear. She took one slow step toward him, and stopped. Out here, horses didn't survive by trusting men. And yet this one had chosen him. He swallowed, crouching low, careful not to spook her. Every instinct told him to back away. A starving horse could turn dangerous fast. But there was a pull in that gaze, an unspoken bargain hanging between them. "I ain't got much," he muttered, voice rough from days of silence. "But I ain't got nothing to lose either." He broke off a piece of dried grain from his saddlebag and set it on the dirt between them. She hesitated, then stepped forward, eating slowly, painfully, as if every bite reminded her how close she'd come to dying. That was when the other riders appeared. 3 men on horseback, silhouettes cutting across the ridge like vultures. Dust rose behind them, deliberate and unhurried. These were men who knew this land. Men who knew its weakness. The lead rider smiled when he saw him. "Well, I'll be damned," the man said, tipping his hat. "Someone finally bought the graveyard." The others laughed. He stood, placing himself between them and the horse. "This land's mine now," he said. The lead rider's smile thinned. "That's so. Funny thing about this land, it don't stay owned very long." The horse shifted behind him, pressing closer, as if she understood the danger before words ever formed it. This wasn't just about a ranch. This was about who got to survive out here and who didn't. As the sun dipped below the horizon and shadows swallowed the plains, one truth settled heavy in his chest. Buying the ranch was the easy part. Keeping it would cost him everything. Morning didn't arrive gently on the plains. It came hard and bright like a judgment. The sun climbed over the horizon and laid bare everything the night had tried to hide: the broken fences, the skeletal barn, the ranch house sagging under years of abandonment. And standing in the middle of it all, a man who had bought into a dream no one else believed in. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those riders on the ridge, heard the laughter that followed him like a curse. Men didn't laugh like that unless they thought time was on their side. The horse stood a short distance away, head low, breathing slow. She hadn't wandered, hadn't tried to escape. That alone unsettled him more than the threat of armed men. Animals knew when to leave dying ground, yet she stayed. He fetched water from the well, coaxing it until it finally surrendered a muddy trickle. He filled a dented trough, watching as the horse approached cautiously. Each step looked like it cost her something. When she drank, she did it like a creature unsure the mercy would last. He leaned against a fence post and watched her, studying the scars beneath the dirt. Old rope burns, a split ear, marks that spoke of hard hands and harder years. "Someone worked you near to death," he said quietly. The wind carried his words away, but the horse lifted her head. That single good eye met his again. Not pleading, not grateful, aware. By midday, the first sign of trouble arrived. A wagon rolled in from the south road, wheels groaning like tired bones. At the reins sat a woman in a faded blue dress and a wide-brimmed hat pulled low. She slowed when she saw him, surprise flickering across her face before she masked it. "You the fool who bought this place?" she asked. He smiled thinly. "Depends who's asking." She dismounted without waiting for permission. Up close, she looked tougher than the dress suggested. Calloused hands, sun-worn skin, eyes that had learned not to trust easily. "Name's Clara Hale," she said. "I run supplies between the outlying ranches, or what's left of 'em." He nodded. "You picked a rough stop." She glanced around, then at the horse. Her expression shifted, recognition sharp and immediate. "Where'd you get her?" "She found me," he said. Clara's jaw tightened. "That horse belonged to Jonah Pike." The name landed heavy. Everyone knew Jonah Pike. Cattle baron, land collector, a man who bought property with contracts when he could and bullets when he couldn't. The same man whose riders had laughed at him the night before. "She disappeared weeks ago," Clara continued. "Jonah doesn't lose property, ever." The horse snorted softly, stamping the dirt. "That horse ain't property," he said. Clara studied him, then shook her head. "That kind of thinking gets people buried out here." She warned him anyway, told him how Pike had been circling this land for years, waiting for desperation to do the work he didn't want to. Told him about families driven off, wells poisoned, fences burned in the night. "And now," she said, eyes narrowing, "you've planted yourself right in the middle of it." That night the ranch burned. Not all of it, just enough. Flames licked the edge of the barn, lighting the sky in angry orange. He fought it with sand and sweat, hands blistering as smoke clawed at his lungs. By the time the fire died, half the structure was gone. A warning. He stood in the ashes, chest heaving, knowing exactly who had sent the message. The horse stood nearby, restless, eyes wide. When the wind shifted, she bolted, but not away from the ranch. Toward him. She pressed against his side, trembling. And in that moment he understood. This wasn't coincidence. Jonah Pike hadn't just lost a horse. He'd lost control of her. She'd run from him, from the whip, from the slow death he'd worked into her bones. And she had chosen this place, this broken ranch, as the last line she'd cross. So had he. Days passed under pressure. Men rode by too slowly. Shots echoed in the distance at night. His supplies dwindled faster than he could replenish them. Clara returned when she could, bringing food and quiet concern. She tried to disguise with sharp words. Something unspoken grew between them. Shared glances, pauses that lasted too long. Neither named it. Out here, attachments were liabilities. But when Pike himself arrived, all pretense vanished. He rode in at dusk, dressed clean, smile polished. His eyes went straight to the horse. "There you are," Pike said softly. "You've caused me a lot of trouble." He turned to the man who'd bought the ranch. "I'll make this simple. You sell me the land. You give me the horse. I walk away. And if I don't?" Pike's smile faded. "Then this place becomes exactly what everyone said it was. Worthless." The horse shifted, stepping closer, her body tense. Clara stood on the porch, hand hovering near her pistol. The choice loomed sharp and cruel. Money could buy safety. Principles bought graves. He looked at the horse, at the land, at the woman watching him, hoping without daring to ask. "No," he said. Pike nodded once. "Then you've chosen how this ends." As Pike rode away, dust rising behind him like a closing curtain, the night felt heavier than before, because now the threat was real, and Jonah Pike never lost twice.